hey, this is going to be a different interview for anybody who's going to watch this. They're going to have to watch part one to get an introduction of who Pona is, his journey from Bombay all the way to Rotman, during probably some of the most interesting times that we've had, given that he had to switch from on campus to online midway through his program. We'll talk to him about the journey once he's gone into business school, not about the journey before that, because you can go watch the other interview. But for now, welcome, Pona. Thanks again for doing this, dude.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a great platform to speak about this.
You've gone to Rotman. A very quick recap. You went in with a pretty decent scholarship, enviable to most Indians. Congratulations again. However, you went at an interesting time, right? Why don't we just begin briefly with the journey? When you got to Rotman, it was September of 2019.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. The world was okay. There was no COVID. Talk about the first few months and your experience just getting oriented into business school. What was it like?
Yeah, sure. I think the first few months is the time when you actually end up interacting a lot with your batchmates, socializing, especially the first 2 weeks, when you're just having the pre-MBA sort of experience. But yeah, once you kick in, then I would say the whole MBA feel starts completely into it, right from understanding from an academic point of view to understanding which companies to target, networking, understanding which clubs you want to be part of. So the whole thing gets going. And I think that's when in the first 2 months, you truly sort of try to understand how MBA is a lot about managing your time and managing all these different facets together. So yeah, that's effectively the first few weeks.
How soon before class began did you join? Did you go to Canada? Did you go at least like a few weeks before?
I actually went to New York for a bit, more of a holiday, and then went in a week or two earlier towards Canada to sort of get accustomed with stuff there.
I remember when I went to Ross, I was not confident that I could actually integrate myself quite quickly. I went literally a month before.
Okay.
Regrettably, all I did was just drink every day, which is not probably what you want to do. It's a great way to orient yourself, but it just kickstarts the MBA drinking process, which is crazy. Okay, you joined the school. How quickly did you realize that a lot of the focus is going to be strictly on academics at Rotman, like we've spoken before, as well as recruiting? How quickly did that hit you?
I think pretty quickly, because as soon as you come in, you tend to talk around. You of course tend to reach out to your seniors and get a perspective of how to approach things. I mean, it's best to get guidance from someone who's just gone through the entire first year, and you will see the importance of an all-round profile, of course, but you will see the importance of academics, especially within, I would say, certain industries or sectors, being finance, consulting. That is definitely emphasized, but of course, they do tell you at the same time that it's an all-round approach wherein, it's not just about your grades, it's about your experience, how you translate that, your extracurriculars. And I think personally, the big part here is about networking. That's something that was new to me, coming from India. So I would say that these were the different elements that were definitely highlighted.
You and I have spoken over the course of the year a few times, and I know that unlike the US business schools, at least like the top 10, top 15 US business school, which have broadly a grade non-disclosure policy, which really takes the pressure off the students. Rotman does not.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is true of all Canadian schools, as I understand also. They don't have a grade non-disclosure policy.
I'm not too sure about the other schools, but I would guess that it should.
It's industry-wide in Canada. Okay.
Well, I'm guessing.
Fair enough, because the focus of this will absolutely change where a student actually pays more attention. Because if you have to disclose grades and there it subsequently impacts your recruitment, you are going to focus a lot on academics and not just on recruiting, like what we did. I focus majority of my time after I realized the grade non-disclosure policy is a great cushion. Majority of my time recruiting, honestly.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk about, but before I talk about the transition, within the first couple of months, what were you targeting in terms of career aspirations when you were at Rotman?
So when I came in here, my thing was to transition to the buy side, and I kept that targeted approach. And I think honestly that worked out well in my favor, because there's a lot happening. You see a lot of opportunities come your way. Broadly speaking, I'm interested in finance, and there's only so much you can do with the time you have, right? So because it's not just about putting in an application, it's about maybe going out, reaching out to the desk, maybe speaking to two people, understanding the job much better, the company better. So I came in targeted, and I was focusing more towards transitioning in the buy side. And I particularly knew Canada has a very strong pension plans here. And so that's where my area of focus was, because these pensions are globally very well renowned of being ahead of the curve. And that's some place that I was targeting particularly.
Okay.
So got in, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, unlike most business school applicants, internationals, particularly Indians, you had a very specific goal. You knew what were you doing before your MBA?
Yeah, so I worked close to 4 years before my MBA. I started off my career at Barclays Investment Bank, worked in their prime brokerage division, which is basically in credit financing. And then I have an undergrad in engineering, and so did my CFA to sort of get a grip of finance. And once I finished my 3 levels, I transitioned to a research-oriented role at eValueServe, where I worked alongside with an investment bank's research desk.
I mean, your pitch is like nailed down. It shows that you've been recruiting. But so essentially, your transition was from equity research or
Credit
investment
research,
credit research
yeah,
to the buy side of finance,
yeah,
right? And
yeah, correct.
Now the reason I'm trying to emphasize this is atypical of an Indian who's trying to get to Canada and recruit from there. This is not the typical career. I'm looking at the statistics for 2019 that we just discussed. 2019 Rotman employment for MBA candidates, like about 39% of its students went to finance. What parts of finance do most people recruit for?
So I would say, like, even if you look at the Toronto Stock Index and you look at the sector composition, banking has a huge weightage. That doesn't necessarily mean you are, maybe doing investment banking or equity research, or I would say broadly, it could be a strategy role in a bank. It could be marketing in a bank. But having said that, you have definitely a portion of my batch that gets into M&A, investment banking, into equity research. Some folks even get into capital markets, sales and trading. And then there's, of course, things on the buy side wherein you have pension funds and other asset management firms, banks that have asset management firms as well.
You told me that probably you were the only Indian targeting the buy side role in your current batch, correct?
I wouldn't say only, but I would say like
one of the very few.
One of the very few companies.
Okay,
I would say within 5 people, 10 people. Yeah, 5.
Good. So if you were putting it among the people who go into finance, the 39%, and we don't know what the 2020 statistics are, but among the people that are going into finance, majority of them are going within various roles in the banking sector, followed by several other tranches of functions within finance, right?
Yeah.
I see consulting as 21%. I'm assuming. Yeah. Do you have any glimpse from the students that are trying to recruit, your classmates that are trying to recruit for consulting? What kind of companies actually come there?
Yeah, so you have the companies that I guess flagged as MVPs. I'm not too well versed with the consulting side, but you have McKinsey, BCG, yeah, you would know best about all this. Yeah. You have Accenture, Kearney. So I think they do come. They have good connect with Rotman, and I believe every year 2 to 3 students from Rotman go into these respective MVP plus Accenture plus Kearney. And
wait,
then
2 to 3 each, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. For a second, what's your class size? Interestingly,
290 this year. I believe they might maybe be a little smaller next year. I'm not too sure, but
lower. Okay.
Lower.
What percentage of them are Indians? Do you know? Like Indians from India, like international students?
I would guess 50.
Okay, that's 50? A sizable number. Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think it should be 40, 50 actually from. Yeah.
Wow. That's okay. That's not bad. Among the Indians, do you see any specific reason why they come, or what Rotman prefers in the candidates that actually come into business school? Do they feel like one is more, typically a person with who's aspiring for consulting tends to be more successful or not?
Well, I don't know exactly like what Rotman's particularly looking for, because I think amongst even the group that's come from India, I think the batch has been fairly diverse, with people looking at operations, marketing, finance, consulting. Of course, I would say you do tend to have people skewed more towards consulting and finance, but otherwise I've seen pretty diverse backgrounds from marketing, operations as well, and the tech also.
Oh, tech as well. Oh, because
Yeah.
there is quite a big tech scene in Toronto as well as Vancouver,
Yeah.
right? And there are opportunities
Yeah.
there for sure.
Yeah. So
Go on, go on.
yeah, Rotman has, I'm not too well versed with, but anyone interested in tech, Rotman has something called CDL, which wherein students, if they're CDL fellows, they can actually work along with a startup here, a tech startup, and get going with that thing and be very well versed with the Toronto tech scene. So Rotman definitely has that platform, and for anyone interested in fintech or anything more from the tech side, that platform is definitely there.
Isn't
So
this the Creative Destruction Lab or
yeah,
something?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I heard they have, at least this is what I know, that they're either tied up with the government or like through the government research body where they're bringing out some pretty cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, it's your cutting edge tech firms are definitely there, and students get a chance to work alongside these firms. So definitely, if you're interested in tech, that's a great place.
Does one need to be a Rotman student to actually go there? I'm just asking for a friend.
Not 100% sure. I can get back to you.
Thanks, man. Okay, we'll obviously talk about the opportunities. The third highest is consumer products and retail. That's FMCG for most in India who are not familiar with the CPG.
Yeah.
That's about 10%, which is where we know your girlfriend's gone, and we can talk about marketing opportunities that are available for anybody who's interested in business schools in Canada at a later stage. But that's broadly it, among various other opportunities. For anybody interested, please go to their website, look at their career statistics, talk to students, and get to know it. Anyways, let's come back to your journey. All right, so
Okay.
you went into business school. You knew that the focus was on academics and recruiting. You knew that you wanted to get a buy-side role. Did you do anything specifically academically to target certain classes or courses that would influence your opportunity to get a buy-side role?
So I actually recruited slightly ahead. But the subjects that I chose were definitely to help me optimize my internship or my full-time recruitment process. So definitely at Rotman, from the third semester onwards, you can choose electives. So I chose I focused more on the data side, took up Python, SQL, despite being an MBA program. I took that because PySide is very data centric. So focused on that, focused on, coming from an engineering background, I wanted to focus more on understanding accounting statements much better. So focused on classes that, would help me leverage that better. And so, yeah, you definitely have subjects that you can take, even subjects that can be skewed towards more the tech side at
do you see that employers actually do tend to value it? I'll tell you this because, again, when I was at Ross, for anybody who was trying to get into management consulting, which was 50% of the class, most of them tried to take like these advanced strategy courses and everything. I did not. After you do the case interviews, I think it's anybody's game. You don't need to take strategy consulting, strategy courses. But do employers actually tend to value if you've taken more finance specific courses that are feasible, or did you just do it because you hoped that you would be more productive at the workplace?
So my approach was for me to be more productive, given that I worked in the industry and I have the CFA. So for me, it was more to basically just continue improving my skill sets. But I would say that if you are transitioning from an absolutely new field, so if you were an engineer and then you want to transition into investment banking, then I would highly recommend that the subjects you take definitely showcase to the employer that you're very interested in actually transitioning towards finance.
That makes a ton of sense.
So I would definitely recommend that for anyone looking to transition for sure.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. Talk to me about the transition from, at what stage did you guys have to go completely online?
I would say somewhere in March, March is when we completely transitioned towards online classes. And didn't expect that I would still be sitting.
And until
online.
Now, you guys are still online, right? And we don't know, but until the situation improves, possibly maybe till you graduate, you're going to be online, unfortunately.
I do think I'm going to graduate online.
That's
unfortunately.
a shame. But in this transition, I want to speak about one specific area, particularly recruiting. You mentioned that networking was very important. How did the networking aspect actually change in your hunt for your internship or your hunt for your full-time offer when you had to transition?
I think one aspect is, of course, I personally believe that in-person connect has much more of a value add, but definitely now that everyone's very accustomed to, like, for instance, we're having the Zoom call with our video on, and it's the norm right now, right? So I think even now when you're reaching out to someone, you reach out, have that Zoom link sent out, so they know you. I mean, they know your face. They can put that, uh, a version of a personal touch. So that continues remaining. In fact, there is an added advantage in terms of the logistics of not traveling and maybe scheduling more networking events, maybe back to back. So you can see the positives of it for sure, and the negatives, of course, it's behind the camera. So there's that element that gets lost out. But definitely, you can, in fact, network, I would say, additionally much more on a virtual platform.
Did
And given that
you
it's norm, it's acceptable.
did you guys have group networking, as in like what we call like the circle of death in
Yeah,
business school, where
yeah.
these guys come and do their presentations and then everybody swarms around them in circles trying to impress them? That was there in the first 6 months, I assume, right?
I was there in the first 6 months, and to continue the circle of death, we have breakout rooms in Zoom or any of the
Oh,
platforms where you.
it's so awkward. Okay, so I've just started the MIT fellowship right now, because I have a reference point of Ross and the full-time MBA, and having done this in person. Now we have breakout rooms for group discussions in between the
Right.
classes. It's so
Yeah.
weird and awkward. I think that's the best that schools can do, and they've done a fairly good job. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, it's with the circumstances, it's the best you can do. So yeah, it's a little awkward, but I guess that's what we can make out of it.
What was how was Rotman perhaps facilitated this transition for you guys going online? I want to talk about the culture, which I'll ask in the very end, but I'm just curious, what did the school do in order to facilitate this whole process?
I think the school. I would say broadly, your MBA is delivered. Like, I feel like two elements to it. One is the academic thing, and the other is the whole, meeting your batchmates, the networking aspect of it. So from the academic thing, I think Rotman's done a pretty good job at transitioning, using any of these platforms like PP Collaborate, Teams, and other discussion boards. Which, like for example, if you're in a virtual class, you can have a poll where you can just, select the answer, or have basically the feedback of the class in a very continuous manner. There are perks to it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people would argue that, man, I don't want to see recorded videos, or don't want to be behind the camera all day. So, but I think in terms of academic delivery, I think that's the quality's been fairly same. I wouldn't say it's been hit too bad. But of course, the whole other aspects of having, know the whole networking or just meeting your batchmates and knowing that in person, that element, how much ever you try, I would say, does get faded away.
I have maybe a very silly question for you. Because my first international academic experience was during my MBA in 2011. I was surprised to find out that you can come into class just dressed in casual clothes, or just dressed in like tracksuits and like a uh, what's that thing called, like a hoodie, right?
Okay.
I assume in Canada also it was that way when it was in person.
Yeah, it is, but depends on the weather, right? So you tend to layer up here, but yeah,
I mean,
fairly,
besides layering up, it's still on a casual note unless there's recruitment
yeah,
events going on, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I can only imagine. I used to think it's pretty shocking how lackadaisical, like I'd wake up and just wear anything and go, because I got so used to it. Now with just being in front of a camera, like I wouldn't even put that much effort. That's just crazy. Well, just a side note, I was just curious. Okay, just talk to me about your hunt for the internship.
Right.
What was the process you went through? Think about the challenges, the struggles, and the journey you went through to get a buy-side internship.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as soon as I came in here, you can leverage definitely what the career center has at your school. So a lot of it culturally is new to you. So the whole concept of coffee chat was a new concept to me, wherein, you reach out to someone and you meet them and you have a coffee and discuss the company, the role, the test, and get an understanding much better. So I always recommend for someone who's coming in new and who's not accustomed towards this whole culture, is the career center definitely guides you into, what's the right way into maybe even as simple as framing an email or reaching out, or what are the basic etiquettes of structuring a right coffee chat, getting your story right, getting your resume right, your cover letter right. So once you have that structured in the first month or two, that's when, and once you know where you want to reach out to your specific firms, Rotman has a very strong alumni base both across the buy side and sell side. So you definitely try to reach out to your Rotman alums and connect with them. And most of them are very reciprocative with, of course, a Rotman student reaching out. So I think that's, once you have this, it's kind of structured. School also has a very structured process for anyone coming in new as an international student. Get to know the etiquettes, get to know how to approach it, work on your resume, work on your story, work on your cover letter. And then when you reach out to someone from the industry and have a conversation with them, that definitely, helps them remember you in case there's ever an opening that comes in place. And I think the other element that is important is you have a lot of these clubs that associate with a lot of companies, and these clubs have a lot of case competitions. And these competitions could be sponsored by the company that you're interested in. So I always recommend people to take part in this competition because it gives you a learning experience as to what's happening in the industry, and two, most of these case competitions end up with a networking event. So you can definitely reach out and connect with people. So I would say this was the approach I took.
And should you win those games competitions, at least there's instant visibility into actually getting access to these companies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean,
I remember for the consulting case competitions, it was the same.
Yeah, for sure. I think it does have that visibility because you'll most likely go on the last stage. You'll present at the company's venue. So for sure, it definitely has alignment. So
I have a question on what was the thing that you learned about either writing emails or crafting or going into coffee chats that you didn't know previously? What was it that you learned from the career center? If there's one thing that you can share with everybody.
I think I think the whole thing of coming, I mean, this could be a little side note, but the whole thing for me coming here for the MBA was never have I been so structured, having my calendar up to date from write my classes to, a chat, like even having so structured that pre-chat, you send a reminder, look, and post-chat, you have a conversation. So everything is really structured to the time, booked in your calendar. And it's an approach that I would say, I wouldn't have been like so meticulous back in the day. So yeah, that's something that I've definitely taken out from.
This is so important. I just met with a student of mine who's going to HEC like just 2 days ago. She had come down to Bangalore from Bombay, and so I was just chatting with her, and she revealed to me that she teared up a couple of times during when working with me, because I was just tough on her and just rigorous and saying, just you got to be pedantic about the time. You just got to be tough with yourself, because the MBA will get you to that point. And I want you to be prepared before you get there. And one of that is just being extremely meticulous and extremely organized about just getting your shit done.
Yeah, for sure.
One can't underestimate this. Trust me.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so do you know roughly the number of conversations you had with people to get one internship? Like across many companies, the number of people, etc. Just a ballpark number.
To be honest, I've been fairly fortunate that I recruited for my internship fairly early in the cycle. So,
okay.
But generally the structure that's out there is, if you're interested, you're interested in investment banking, right? And you have your 5 top banks here.
Yeah.
You know that they tend to come over the cycle of recruiting. So it's recommended that you reach out to at least 2 to 3 people per bank. And,
okay.
So if you're gearing for investment banking, I would say, that would be the approach you would be taking for your internship. So that itself will shoot your numbers above 10. If that doesn't work out, you'll move towards more boutique names. So on average, you could clock in 15, 20 by the time you are for 4 or 5 months in. Depends on how the cycle goes for you.
Okay, the reason I ask is again this: when people are working with me, the thing that I emphasize is with every school you have to network with at least 5 people. Like you have to, which means you have to reach out to probably 10. Like if people are non-responsive, you just have to do it. You got to know that this is a war, like a war of numbers. It's just attrition that you have to keep going through. You have to get conditioned to it because it's going to happen in business. So that's the only thing you'll be doing.
For sure.
Good. I'm glad things are still the same 10 years later. How is the job market at this moment for MBA candidates in Canada?
At this moment, of course, once the lockdown hit, I won't say it was, not the best time to recruit for sure. But a lot of companies tend to have, their programs like leadership development programs, rotational programs. And what was good to see that they were still coming on campus and they still continued a lot of those programs. Definitely, maybe if the firm was known to take maybe 3 people, maybe this year it's 1 or 2. that's taken a hit. But at least we're glad to see that the firm's at least coming. So I think maybe it's a challenging market, but I would say there's still hope.
Yeah, you and I were chatting offline just before we hit record, and you were talking about for subsequent students joining next year or the year after, they should be in a slightly better position once the vaccine comes and things start
Yeah.
flowing back to its hopefully normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in case people are discouraged, then just take that with a pinch of salt. Now that you went through the internship, just recall what were some of the lessons you learned when you went through the internship and you did the internship completely online. How was that experience? What was the process of actually getting it converted to a full-time role? What was your experience? It may not be the normal experience, but what was your experience? Let's just talk through that.
Yeah, for me, of course, this is the first time I ever got onboarded virtually, so that was a new experience. But overall, I'm very fortunate that the team was, very responsive and could reach out to them at any moment and adjust towards the whole online aspect of it. It was new to me the first time I'm working on the buy side, so and the team and was quite lean, so it was pretty interesting to see how a lot like the MBA, you got to manage a lot of things at one given time. So so that was a unique experience, sitting at the back of sitting behind in your study table trying to figure those things out on your own. But yeah, super helpful team and got you know luckily could lean onto them, could learn from them, and so overall my experience, although virtually, was actually quite for me it was quite good. I could learn quite a bit.
You were able to convert the internship into a full-time offer, even though you did still have to network and did still have to interview, if I remember correctly.
Right. So no, typically you have banks or consulting firms that tend to come on campus, wherein post internship they're basically converting for a full time. Whereas I would say in the equity research and buy side space, hiring is more in time. That's basically what that means is when you're graduating. So I would say most of these companies are looking for candidates sometime around March for me next year. That's typically how the hiring cycle goes for anyone who's interested to join as an equity research analyst in a bank or to join any of the buy side firms. However, here the firm I was interning in, they had an opening that came out, and so I had to interview it like a normal interview process for full time.
Okay.
I had interned at this firm, but I had to interview back like in any normal interviewing process.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. Congratulations on that. Job well done.
Thank you so much.
Do you know what proportion of your class actually got internships this year? Say, I'm more particularly, I'm concerned about the internationals and Indians, the target audience. Do you know what proportion actually got into internships and possibly have full-time offers at this point?
So give a brief about the internship experience here at Rotman. It's actually a flexible internship program. So you can intern in the summer, fall, or winter. So even though maybe I would say bulk of them do get summer internships, let's say 60% of the class.
Right.
But if you don't, you have fall and winter. So I would say on average, most of the class will have an internship by the time they graduate, because you almost have 3 terms to sort of get yourself an internship. So, to your question about Indians, particularly international students coming in, I would say the bulk of them would have done an internship, even the year being bad.
And for those that haven't gotten either a fall or summer or winter internship, there is, or they don't like what they're getting in terms of internship. There is, from what I read in the research, there's also you can do like a research study or an independent study that Rotman offers.
Yeah.
Many schools do offer that opportunity with some of the institutes that are paired with Rotman, where you get to go do that. So in case people are looking to learn what to do there as a substitute, that's that. How is it's a slightly difficult question to answer, but part of every MBA candidate's aspirations when they go into business school is to get this leadership exposure and lead clubs and do X activities and Y activities. In a normal year, it would be pretty easy to chart that path. How did you chart the path, and how did you transition given COVID? Like, just talk to me about some of the clubs and leadership activities you've taken up at school.
Yeah, sure. So again, as I came here, transitioned to buy side, I targeted clubs that help me or that I can leverage.
Which ones did you join?
So I joined Rotman Asset Management Association, which is called RAMA, and RFA.
Oh. Very Indian centric. All right, it's good to know.
And Rotman Finance Association, RFA. So, but I particularly put my time and energy more on RAMA. And I was interested in taking up a role in my second year. And so the whole, I mean, you come in and you express your interest for the club. You can be a first year associate for the club. You take part in competitions that the club organizes. And you're an active member, and that's a great way of actively engaging with the club, either as an associate, either through the case competitions. And when you transition to your second year, you get to apply for these respective roles. And there's an interview process, and generally they do know you beforehand because they've seen you actively engage in the club. So if you're interested in taking up a leadership position, I mean, if you're definitely part of it from day one, it's a great way to transition into your second year. And in my second year right now, I am a part of RAMA in its VP committee, and my responsibility was organizing a case competition that was geared towards portfolio management. So I had to do that completely virtually as well. But what was unique is we had participation that was much higher than last year. I think again it's the advantage of you're sitting at home, Zoom, rather than I guess
going
people
in
are more
person to some location.
Yeah, so we had like great participation, and in terms of networking, back to those breakout rooms and engaging students by putting them into rooms that they are interested in and moving along. And so it's done completely virtually, and in fact, it was not too bad.
Yeah, but when did it conclude?
Maybe I organized it, so I'm biased.
when did it just conclude recently?
I think this was sometime in October.
Okay, and so you had to. This was only specifically for Rotman MBA students, I assume, the case competition.
It's to Rotman MBA students, and we even opened it up for Rotman Financial Economics and Executive MBAs as well.
Understood. So, and it included participation from companies that will witness either the pitch or the result of the case competition and subsequent networking as well.
Yeah, a company sponsored it. And so how it was a portfolio management case competition. So you present internally at Rotman, and the top teams get to present to the companies. And then we break out into a networking event wherein everyone who's taken part in the competition has the opportunity to network and virtually grab dinner.
Okay, well, this is great. I mean, so whether it's online, offline, it doesn't really matter. I guess companies are still participating, which is a good sign. People are participating, and things can be organized through these Zoom breakout rooms. The magic of Zoom, through which we're doing this recording as well. So thank you, Zoom. I wish I could buy the stock when it IPO'd, but I couldn't because I wasn't allowed to trade when I was at Deutsche Bank. So thank you.
Okay.
All right. So there are a couple of things I think I want to close out with. But overall, what was your experience after what you assumed would be your MBA journey versus what it turned out to be? Like, how would you rate it, and what are the parting thoughts you have around your overall MBA experience at Rotman?
Overall, I think it started off strong because I felt comfortable transitioning into acads and was fortunate with the whole internship cycle, and I enjoyed some of the subjects here, and I really think that the faculty and academic quality at Rotman is pretty good. I would say I would rank my overall experience more from the whole other aspect of things, socially and stuff. Well, of course, the virtual element of it as well, lower, given that there's only so much you can do behind a screen. So yeah, overall, at the end of the day, we're trying to
make the best of the situation.
Yeah, make the best of the situation. And so I think I'm happy to see where I am right now.
So COVID notwithstanding, I suppose Rotman, both from an academic perspective, the career opportunities it's presented you as well as other schools have just done a phenomenal job. COVID is what it is.
Yeah. I would say, given any normal year, I would definitely recommend, for anyone particularly looking to come into Canada, I think Rotman's a great school.
There are tons.
Definitely.
As you can imagine, and a lot of our brethren from India are looking to make their way into Canada, and particularly through the conduit of business schools, especially Rotman. So I'm sure you'll hear from a lot of people. I want to touch upon the culture of the school.
Yeah.
It's a very nebulous topic. Generally, I like tangible examples. Do you have any examples about the culture at Rotman that specifically spoke to you or that surprised you that you didn't know when you were applying?
Uh, Now I don't have like a tangible pointed down, but I would say that generally what you experience in Canada is it's really welcoming, really diverse. You get that full experience of different cultures, and I think that's exactly what you do see at Rotman. From having your classmates being absolutely diverse from different countries, different backgrounds. And for me, particularly coming in, from an engineering school, working in finance, I've been layered, I would say, focused on a certain aspect of quantitative or maybe, engineering sort of focused group. And so it's a great flavor to see someone, maybe interacting with a doctor to, interacting with an aerospace engineer. So I think that whole feeling and the whole inclusivity and diverse feel that you get in Canada is exactly what you get here at Rotman. And also, yeah, I mean, one thing about Rotman that stood out to me was like the academic flavor of it. That's definitely, I don't know if that would come under its culture, but that definitely
You mean
is
it's
one.
you mean the
It's
fact
focused
that
on academics.
it focused on academics
Yeah,
more than you thought it would for an MBA
yeah,
program where people are trying
yeah.
to transition to different career spaces, which is, I think, a fair observation. I don't know from enough examples if all other schools feel that way. I know a lot of the US schools don't feel that way. So this is certainly something that people should be mindful of. If they like academics and like to actually like the rigor of academics and want to get through that grind, hey, go for broke. Rotman's your place. Um, is there anything that we haven't covered about your journey in Rotman, about what students, internationals in particular, Indians specifically, should be aware of when they're trying to make their way into Rotman?
Yeah. Um, I think one thing that stands out, it's a small job market, right? So you might be the best on paper, but that message is not going to come across till you actually go out and reach to people and speak to them. And that's something that I think I particularly did not know coming in. And I think that journey of yours starts pre-MBA itself. So it starts, as you mentioned, right? You recommend people reach out to 5 people. I mean, when you reach out to the admission team or when you reach out to a student and that student connects you to the admission team, that itself signals that you are ready in a way for the job market because you are able to reach out, strike that conversation and get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And I highly, highly recommend that students do that. Don't look at it. We tend to look at things more from a metric perspective, I guess,
Yeah.
back in India. So I guess, put that human element to it, get that flavor, get the ball rolling, start networking much before your MBA.
Yeah.
It'll get you comfortable when you come on board and it'll help you in your application process as well. I think that's something that I would definitely recommend for anyone applying for or any other school actually.
This has been great. Should people actually reach out to me wondering, hey, is there somebody I can talk to from Rotman? I'm going to point them to you.
For sure. Happy to chat.
You'd make some time, and when I come to Canada in March, I'll come and see the campus again for the second time in person. It's a beautiful campus for anybody who wants to go there and visit, whether COVID is permitting or not. It's amazing to just walk around. It's nestled right within the city, very close to downtown, and it just looks like a castle in certain areas of the campus. It's beautiful. What would be interesting? I would like to actually speak to somebody from the Rotman admissions team and actually understand what they are doing in order to facilitate like this entire transition. That's what I should probably start doing with most of the schools. I'm going to start reaching out to Ross and other places and just talk to them about it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. I think we wrapped this up. Thank you so much for doing the second interview. It's been a year and a half in waiting for me to publish the first one and the second one together. So this is great. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Pleasure talking, Ashwin.
All right.